1980. Detroit's Big Three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, just lost $4 billion in a single year. 300,000 plant workers are laid off. 500,000 supplier jobs gone. And across the Pacific, Japanese automakers are taking 21% of the American car market. How'd that happen? The answer is one of the greatest ironies in business history. America invented quality control. Then they ignored it. Japan took those same ideas, improved them, and built an industrial doctrine that changed the world. This is the story of W. Edward Deming, a prophet rejected in his own country. The story of Taiichi Ohno, an engineer who turned a supermarket into a manufacturing philosophy. And the doctrine of systemic learning. Learn fast, fail quick, and dominate slow. Let's go back to 1945. Japan's economy is destroyed. Factories are bombed, infrastructure ruined, and their reputation? Made in Japan literally means cheap, disposable junk. They need to rebuild, and fast. Enter W. Edwards Deming, American statistician. Worked on the U.S. Census. He helped with wartime production. In 1950, he's invited to Tokyo by the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers, JUSE, to teach quality control. And here's what you need to understand. Deming had been teaching these ideas in America for years. Statistical process control, quality as a system. His message was simple but radical. Improving quality lowers cost. It doesn't raise them. American executives thought he was crazy. Why would you spend money on preventing defects when you can just inspect them out at the end? But Japan, they were listening. Deming taught them his core philosophy. Production is a system. Every step affects the next. Variation is the enemy. If you design quality into the process, you eliminate waste, rework, and scrap. You produce more, faster, and better. The Japanese were desperate enough to try anything. They took Deming's teachings and they ran with them. In 1951, 1 year after Deming's lectures, Japan established the Deming Prize, their highest award for organizational quality, still awarded today. Now let's talk about Toyota. In 1950, they're a small automaker. They'd been building trucks since the 1930s, but they're nowhere near Ford or GM scale. And there's the problem. Toyota can't compete with Detroit on volume. American factories are massive. Ford's River Rouge plant employed 100,000 workers. Toyota's entire company had maybe 15,000. So Toyota engineer Taiichi Ohno asked a different question. What if we don't need that scale? What if we built a better system? Ohno studies Ford's assembly line, but he also studies something completely unexpected. American supermarkets. He visits a Piggly Wiggly during a U.S. trip in 1956. What'd he notice? Supermarkets only stock what customers actually buy. When a customer takes a product off the shelf, that triggers a replenishment order. Nothing sits in inventory forever. No waste. No warehouses full of unsold cars. Ohno doesn't stop there. He combines just-in-time with another principle, jidoka, automation with a human touch. If a worker spots a defect, they pull a cord, the famous andon cord, and the entire line stops immediately. In Detroit, you never stop the line. Quantity over quality. Fix defects at the end. In Toyota, you always stop the line. Quality over quantity. Prevent defects from happening. Between 1948 and 1975, Ohno and his team developed what becomes the Toyota production system. They add continuous improvement, Kaizen. They add Genchi Genbutsu, go to the source, see the problem yourself. They add respect for people. Workers on the line know the problems better than managers in an office. And in 1965, Toyota wins the Deming Prize. The student has mastered the teacher's doctrine. So what happens when these two systems collided in the marketplace? It's not even close. 1970, Japanese cars hold 3% of the US market. Small cars, economy cars, and Americans barely notice them. In 1973, the oil crisis hits. Gas prices skyrocket. Those fuel-efficient Japanese cars don't look so small anymore. In 1976, Japanese automakers sell over 1 million cars in America for an 8% market share. In 1980, they had a 21% market share. Toyota alone has 6.6% of the entire U.S. auto market. But it's not just volume, it's quality. Consumer Reports, J.D. Power, every quality ranking shows the same thing. Japanese cars are more reliable, fewer defects, and better resale. Detroit's response? They called it unfair competition. They demanded import quotas. In 1981, the U.S. government pressures Japan into voluntary export restraints. Limit Japanese imports to only 1.68 million cars per year. Did it work? No. Japanese automakers just built factories in America instead. Nissan opens a plant in Tennessee in 1983. Toyota and GM created a joint venture in California in 1984. Toyota's wholly owned Kentucky plant starts building Camrys in 1988. And here's the kicker. Those American-made Toyota plants have better quality and production than Detroit's own factories. Why? Because it was never about cheap labor. It was never about currency manipulation. It was about the system. Toyota's production system was simply better. Shoichiro Toyoda, Toyota's chairman, said in 1980, "There is not a day I don't think about what Dr. Deming meant to us." Deming is the core of our management. Meanwhile, Deming was still largely unknown in America, a prophet rejected at home and revered abroad. By the late 1980s, Western companies are panicking. How do we compete with this? In 1990, MIT researchers published The Machine That Changed the World. They study Toyota's system for 5 years, and they give it a new name, lean manufacturing. The book becomes a global phenomenon. Everyone wants to be lean. Ford, GM, Boeing, Caterpillar, they send executives to study Toyota. They hire consultants. They implement Kaizen events. It spreads beyond automotive. Healthcare adopts lean to reduce patient wait times. Software development creates lean startup as a methodology. The military studies Toyota's supply chain for logistics. The principles Deming taught in 1950, the system Ono built in the 1960s, these principles become the dominant operational doctrine for the 21st century. And here's the irony. In the 1980s, American companies finally discovered Deming. NBC does a documentary in 1980 called If Japan Can, Why Can't We? Featuring Deming. He's 80 years old, and now he's consulting at Ford, GM, and AT&T. He finally gets recognition at home. Japan had a 30-year head start. So what's the doctrine? What's the takeaway? First, you learn fast from anyone. Japan had no shame about learning from America. They sent their best executives to study Deming. They studied Ford's assembly lines. They studied supermarkets. They took ideas from everywhere and asked, how can we apply this? Pride is expensive. Humility is profitable. Second, fail quick in implementation. Toyota didn't get the production system right on day one. Ono spent 25 years refining it. They experimented, they failed, they adjusted, stopped the line when something was wrong, fixed it, and moved on. Iteration beats perfection. Third, dominate slow through systematic improvement. This is the key. Japan did not win overnight. It took 20 years to go from 3% market share to 21%. Once they had the doctrine, domination was inevitable because Detroit couldn't copy it. You can reverse engineer a car. You can't reverse engineer a culture. W. Edward Deming died in 1993 at the age of 93 years old. Toyota sent representatives to his funeral. Detroit sent flowers. The Japanese miracle wasn't magic, it was doctrine. Taking someone else's ideas, improving them systematically, and building an empire. That doctrine works in any domain. Software, healthcare, logistics, doesn't matter. If you can learn fast, fail quick, dominate slow, you can beat anyone, even if they invented the game.
There are a lot of moving parts here. Have you subscribed? Do it. Click the bell. Get notified. You'll want to hear the rest of this story.